Jazmin Kopotsha Culture Writer. 10 hours ago. There are different types of podcast listeners. You've got your hyper-dedicated series followers who refuse to deviate from the episode-by-episode path paved by that one show they've chosen to fixate upon. It's all they listen to, all they talk about, all they care about. Serial was guilty of converting people to this sort of listener for a time. Then you've got your podcast grasshoppers. They find it hard to finish an episode, let alone a series, and are so adamant about listening to all of the shows out there that they often lose track of who said what when, but at the same time also seem to know everything about everything. It's a bit stressful. And third of all, you've got the hopeful listeners who have no idea where to start. I often fall into this category, and let me remind you and myself that there's no shame in not knowing which of the gazillions of podcast offerings you're willing to commit an hour of your life to. It's a big, busy, overwhelming world for the uninitiated. While the iTunes charts are fine and all, much like with books, the most enjoyable listening material comes recommended from friends who are into similar things. That's where we come in. To help you narrow it down, we've rounded up some of our favorite podcasts at the moment to keep you company on your commute now that it's cold, dark and depressing outside. Enjoy. Watch. We ask female comedians to give us public speaking advice. 1. Never Before with Janet Mock. A post shared by Janet Mock at Janet Mock on May 30, 2017 at 5:59 PDT. If you're looking for a podcast that features tantalizing tidbits from some of the biggest names in the world of celebrity entertainment, we're talking everyone from Tina Lawson and Kris Jenner to Rowan Blanchard and Maxine Waters, look no further. The podcast started in May and the season finale has been and gone, but you can still download all the episodes and listen to them back to back. It's got 5 stars on iTunes for a reason. 2. The Receipts Podcast. The Debrief's very own wonderful social media editor, Phoebe Park, is one of the 4 brilliant young women behind Now the Receipts Podcast. It's just had its first birthday, but if you're the sort of person who likes to read all the reviews before investing in some listening time, they all say something along the lines of, "I feel like I'm talking to my best mates." You're in safe hands. Honest. It's funny, like, legit laugh out loud funny chat about all things sex, relationships and general life stuff. If you've thought it, they've spoken about it. 3. Dirty John. A post shared by Wondery Media at Wondery Media on October 4, 2017 at 1:27 p.m. PDT. This is the one you've probably heard people talking about over the last month or so, because what's 2017 without an extra dose of true crime to obsess over? Dirty John is all about the story of interior designer Deborah Newell, who met the man of her dreams online, Dirty John, and ends up marrying him really quickly, which of course is when Deborah starts to see his dark, dangerous side. It's hauntingly detailed for this sort of thing and an insanely addictive listening. Also, the dangers around meeting people online hits pretty hard. 4. A Piece of Work. A post shared by Wondery Media at Wondery Media on October 4, 2017 at 1:27 p.m. PDT. A podcast all about modern art. Might sound confusing because how can you see the art, but these guys seem to make it work. It's hosted by Abby Jacobson from Broad City and features an expectedly cool sequence of guests that includes the likes of RuPaul. In the podcast, though, Abby talks about her passion for art. Did you know she's an illustrator too, in a refreshingly straight to the point, ident get it either kind of way. The episodes are about 15 minutes long if you're after something a bit snappier. 5. Where should we begin? Ever been curious about couples therapy? Ever wanted to listen in on someone's real, actual therapy session? Because if you're as inherently fascinated by other people's relationships as most of us pretend not to be, you might want to tune into the podcast by Belgian psychotherapist Esther Perel. The second series of her podcast only started last month, and it's literally 45 minutes of listening to a couple's counseling session, interjected with Esther's thoughts and stuff too. OBVS. It's all very raw and emotional and intently fascinating. 6. The Debrief Podcast. A post shared by The Debrief at The Debrief on September 5, 2017 at 12:25 PDT. Yes, this is a shameless plug for a brilliant podcast hosted by Stevie Martin and Tessa Coates. If you haven't tuned in yet, where the hell have you been for the last 8 months? Each week we hit the audio waves to share a few lols and help you get your life together. Want to know how to poo properly? We've got an episode for that. Want to know how to stop smoking? We can help you there too. Not very good at dealing with jealousy, need some CV help and want to survive someone else's wedding? We've got you covered. 7. The Nod. A post shared by Gimlet Media at Gimlet Media on June 27, 2017 at 11:17 PDT. The Nod only landed this year and is hosted by Brittany Luz and Eric Addings over in the States. It's all about Black life and culture, both the beautiful and the complicated, the funny and the definitely not okay, told through the lens of unfamiliar territory. On this show, we're going to explore the stories about blackness that you don't often hear, Eric says in the trailer. You're as likely to hear the hosts debating Drake's sampling of the African diaspora as you are the significance of Eric's favorite color. It's purple. Like this, you might also be interested in. Listen to this week's episode of the Debrief podcast, the 21 best podcasts that every 20-something girl should be listening to. 9 actually inspirational podcasts to listen to if you want to start your own business. Follow Jazmin on Instagram at Kopotsha. Tags podcasts at work with your gran. You might want to think about the fact you're about to read something that wouldn't exactly get a PG rating. Sign up for exclusive news, reviews, ace competitions, and discounts. Sign up for our email. It'll make your inbox great. Guaranteed. Get the debrief.